The Ministry of Education, Heritage and Arts is currently working with the Ministry of Health and Medical Services to ensure that when schools reopen, appropriate measures are in place to ensure the safe return of children to schools. The earlier announcement by the Permanent Secretary of Health and Medical Services on the 3rd of May outlines that schools will reopen on Monday the 24th of May 2021 for teachers and Tuesday the 25th of May 2021 for all students. The decision to reopen schools will be in close consultation with the Ministry of Health and Medical Services and only with their approval. The Term 1 holidays was brought forward to Tuesday the 20th of April after the first community-transmitted case of COVID-19 was announced in Lautoka on the 19th of April. This was done to ensure that children were safe at home as we anticipated potentially more cases. Moreover, we managed to get all boarding students home safely. The ministry has announced that the school holidays has been extended for a further 2 weeks in order to keep children safe at home while the nation continues to deal with the pandemic. At this time, when it is critical that we avoid all unnecessary movement, students must stay home. While on extended holidays, students are encouraged to be engaged in a number of activities at home. Parents can become more involved with their children and provide value education, engage in educational games, discuss issues, and provide guidance to their children. Parental engagement in student learning can take the form of application of their learning, for example, engaging children in cooking, sewing, baking. They can engage students in preparing seedlings and gardening. Parental engagement can also take the form of reading with children and storytelling. Lessons of numeracy can be learned by doing simple applied mathematics in their daily tasks. Students should take advantage of this time to do activities with their parents and siblings, share their experiences with their families, and engage in activities with them. This will not only help students learn life skills, but allow them to spend the much-needed quality time together. The ministry has prepared supplementary worksheets in the way of revision materials from Term 1. For primary school students, years 1 to 7, these are only for literacy and numeracy. For years 8 to 13, there are subject-specific worksheets. These can be accessed from the ministry's website. We have ensured that the worksheets are only 1 page per week, so students are not overburdened. It is important that we allow students free time at home and create safe learning spaces for them. These worksheets are not compulsory. Only students who have access to these can use them for revision. Those students who are unable to access these resources should revise using their Term 1 notes, workbooks, and exam papers from Term 1. Please remember, it is most important that students stay home and stay safe. They should not leave their homes to engage in revision work. Over the next 2 weeks, starting Monday the 10th of May, there will be radio broadcasts on FBC Radio Fiji 1 and Radio Fiji 2 stations. The ministry will also be airing educational videos on the educational channel via the WALESI platform for both primary and secondary students. Daily programs will be made available on the ministry's website and Facebook page. Last November, the Commonwealth of Learning launched its Pacific Regional Channel, which contains videos for mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology lessons for secondary schools and provides good supplementary resources for students. Students can either access this channel online or download the lessons on their smartphones, laptops, or PCs. During the extended school break, teachers are required to prepare lesson notes, teaching materials, finish off their marking from the exams that they had before schools closed, and make the necessary preparations for the reopening of schools. If schools reopen on the 25th of May, we will not need to realign the curriculum, as we can cover the full year's curriculum in terms 2 and 3. However, if this is not possible, the Ministry has made plans for possible later dates of reopening and the required adjustments that it may need to consider. At that point, we will also look into what considerations we may need to make for examinations. But for now, we need to focus on keeping children safe at home and engaged in some form of learning. I remind all Fijian children to stay home and stay safe. Thank you. I think we need to understand that last year's lockdown was a first experience for everybody. It was really a time when we wanted to make sure that children were safe at home and engaged in some form of learning. It did not really mean that we were going to measure learning necessarily. However, student performance last year in the final exam, in the two external exams, were fine, which meant that time was used effectively by these students. I think it was a long break, and students did spend time in the learning activities.
Shanil from Fiji Village. Ma'am, the Ministry of Health has stated that they will be using some schools as isolation facilities. Mm-hmm. Can you just elaborate further on that? Which schools, how many schools, in which areas we're looking at?
Sure. At the moment, we have 4 schools as quarantine centers, isolation centers, 2 in the west, 2 in the central division. We have about 20 schools across the country, that's the eastern, western, and central divisions, ready in case they're needed. We are using currently, over the next week, 3 schools for vaccination venues, and we have 4 schools that are currently used for screening people to use.
Ma'am, with cases rising and the health system stretched to an extent, are we perhaps looking at using teachers to help the health staff contact trace in their own containment zones?
Our civil servants are involved, yes, including teachers and some other administrative staff. It's on voluntary basis, and as with any civil servant, this is the time that we need to all come together and help. So I think they're all doing. Whoever wishes can assist, and we know several teachers are involved.
Do you know how many? Perhaps an estimate?
I wouldn't have a number. Like I said, it is voluntary, so they don't need to.
Kritika from FBC News. Ma'am, the schools that are being used at isolation facilities, so any date when that school will open for students?
As you are well aware, at this point in time, the situation is changing, hour to hour, day to day. This is not really, it's not a time when we can start to put some firm dates. We'll just have to see how the situation evolves, and everybody's coming in to help, just to make sure that we can get over this. I think that's what should be our priority right now.
Ma'am, just a follow-up question. So once the school starts, will there be alternative arrangements made for those students?
Which students?
The students who are going to those schools that are being used as isolation facilities. So will there be any alternative arrangements for those students?
Like I said, I think students will be returning to school only when it's absolutely safe. And what that means is we will be working with the Ministry of Health to make sure that all schools are safe for all students.
Ma'am, what is the ministry's long-term plan if the school is closed for a longer period of time?
Like I said towards the end of my presentation just now, we will wait, we will see how things evolve. We will then make plans as necessary. Our job right now is to make sure that students are engaged in some kind of learning. That's the best we can do, and we will continue to do that. As you know, last year there was a much longer time away from home, and we kept students engaged. We will do the same.
Ma'am, Litya Dava from the Fiji Times. I just have a question in terms of the programs that will be aired on TV and that the ministry will also be posting online and etc. In terms of its impact on the ministry's budget, considering that this also took place last year and also this year, would you be able to comment on that?
Sure. Last year, most of the service was provided out of the generosity of the service providers. It is the same this year, I'm pleased to say.
So it doesn't involve any cost in terms of, I'm just referring to the budget. How does it affect the ministry's budget?
Our WALESI and FBC programs will be aired starting Monday, and they have generously decided to air it and not charge us. But in the event that we do have to pay, we will have to pay, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we provide the best possible learning resources for our students.